and rejoice in God. Rejoice, ye pure in heart, for the spirit of a sound mind has spoken this morning. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thanks, Sister Alison, very much. And we'll go right into the program with the Word to the Wise. You know, I had a book from a friend, and it went like this. Said that there's a book, I think I shared it with you last week, but I'll do it again. Browne, the prophet. It started with him saying there was a way traveler who went to an inn. He rode his horse to this inn and he tied his horse outside of the inn. And he went in for the night. And the morning when he came out, his horse was missing. He raised an alarm that his horse was missing. Someone in the street said he should have paid someone to take care of the horse. Another said he should have found an inn somewhere where it had room for him and the horse. Another said he should have put the horse in the barn down the street before he went into the inn. Another said maybe he should have, when he came to this place, he should have known that he should not have come with the horse. And then Browne said, but no one said, no one should have taken the man's horse. This swirled through my mind over the last few days. Last week in the Guardian and the Express outlined a behavior or alleged behavior with bank statements and emails and letters dealing with an attorney general and the whole Nelson affair. When Nelson purported to send money to the bank, but the bank refused. Where kickback was raining, where the letters and the emails showed that there were constant kickbacks. Whether it's true or not, whether these letters have been falsified or not, they were showing that there were kickbacks between the middleman, attorney general, and a middleman lawyer, and money is passing through the bank, and until the bank decided they would not take £560,000 into the account. And all this has happened. And then we heard that the case against these individuals had been discontinued by the Director of Public Prosecution. And as I listen on Facebook and other places, as I listen the whole discourse on the issue seemed to be not folks who stole, not folks who are allegedly to steal from the Treasury millions of taxpayers' dollars, not folks who have been placing our trust to guard the purse, turn around and stole from the purse with bribes and kickback. That's not the talk. The talk is simply now is who caused this case to crumble. And the person who is alleged caused the case to crumble seemed to be worse than the folks who stole millions of dollars from us. And as I listened to the whole discourse on YouTube, on the newspaper, on radio, and commentators, it took me back to Browne book, The Prophet, when he said, nobody said that the man's horse should not have been stolen. Everyone have a reason of what has happened, but nobody, from big lawyers to senior counselors, one issue has escaped us, that these monies should not have been stolen. A word to the wise is sufficient. A word to the wise is sufficient if we still have wise out there. This morning I want to deal with a topic. Before I do, I want to thank those who are continue to contribute to the program, to have kept us on air. You have done a great deal for us. And as I look at the whole landscape, look at the whole issue, the issue of salvation, the social issues that so place upon us, such burden upon us, that people cannot have an understanding of what is happening around us. it dawned on me that those folks who have been contributing to this program to keep us on air are really the angels that God said when he said he saw 3 angels flying, when John said he saw 3 angels flying in the midst of heaven with the everlasting gospel. And some of you think that John saw men with wings flying. No, those are the word there, angelos, is messenger. What John saw were messengers, and messengers don't always mean a man flying with wings. Messengers could be the airways. What we are doing this morning is bringing a message for God's people, a message for those who like to be part of God's people, a message for those who are hearing. And so we are the angels this morning, and those who have contributed to make sure that this program remains on air. You are angels of mercy, you are angels of peace, you are angels of good tidings. And I'm thankful for you. You know yourself. At the end of the program, I will introduce the numbers again for those who would like to be part of this whole thing. This morning I'm studying, our study is understanding homosexuality. But for some strange reason, this topic I've raised a lot of, when I sent out my flyer, I've raised a lot of interest. In fact, someone said to me that it's an abomination. Another said to me, well, why do you want to understand this thing? God said it is wrong, and if God said it is wrong, we don't need to understand. And friends, that's the problem that we are having. That's why you find so many people who believe in the name of Jesus. They are into conspiracy theories. That's why I had to bury so many people. If they were just sensible, they would have been alive today after this COVID-19 business passed. Because some of us believe that, hey, God said it is so, but God never said to you, I say it is so. No. He said, study to show yourself approved unto God. A workman need to be ashamed, but rightly dividing the word of truth. That's what God says. Paul said, be as the Bereans who search the scripture to see if it was so. God said in the Revelation when he spoke about the number of the beasts, he said, here is wisdom. Let him with understanding number the beasts. So God expects wisdom from us. Another reason why we need to understand things is that understanding brings stronger conviction of what you believe. When you believe something because I say so, because the daddy says so, because your spouse says so, it is easy for that belief to be shaken if you do not have a strong understanding of what you believe. And this morning I will attempt to bring an understanding of homosexuality from if possible, a non-biased perspective. No, it's hard to empty yourself from all bias. But this morning I will try. I will allow the prevailing studies and thoughts of the matter to speak for themselves. 2 things that I will be careful to avoid this morning on this subject, on homosexuality, are the religious aspect. I know some of them groaning right now. You're going to talk, and you've been talking on the religious aspect, yes. The religious aspect and confusing homosexuals with homosexuality. There are 2 different things there. And sometimes when we say homosexual, immediately we pour on the whole idea of homosexuality. I'm doing this to avoid being accused of hate or anti-people who are different, because I believe that I am called by God to reach out to all men, regardless of belief, regardless of sexual orientation or preference, regardless of race, regardless of demographic. I believe I'm called to reach out to all men. My conviction of evil has more to do with homosexuality and the homosexual lobby than individuals who are homosexuals. It is homosexual that is loathsome. And the homosexual, in my view, that I have gleaned from the scriptures is only a spiritually sick individual in dire need of healing, whether he accepts this or not. However, that is a highly prejudicial statement to put this after here. But if I don't allow the facts and relevant data to guide my summation, then it remains just that. It remains just that. Firstly, I intend this morning not to only give you an understanding of homosexuality, but to state my position on the subject and how I've arrived at such. In my view, homosexuality using spurious science is having devastating effects on morals and the family. The argument of homosexuals are a product of nature is flawed. And that's just my view. And I'll go into the data that I'm using after. But I'm stating my thesis here as an abstract for you to understand where I am. So whatever I say after that, it may sound contrary to where I am, but I'm just saying where I am is here. And I'll give you the facts of the matter as we continue. I do not totally disagree with the theory that some people have a higher propensity towards the decadent homosexual behavior. But so also is the situation of drug addicts, the drug addiction, alcoholism, and even violence. Some people are more have a higher propensity to that. But all remain the same thing. All remain something that is wrong and ought to be fixed and cannot be condoned. I cannot condone the alcoholic because he had a propensity to that. His mother was an alcoholic, his father, and the whole process of socialization had brought him to that point. I cannot say, well, go ahead, but I can be understanding of where he is. And based on my understanding of where he is, I can put forth value judgment in a way that I can help that one out of his situation. Now, you are not compelled to agree with me. I will walk through the arguments and give you an understanding of the phenomenon. What you choose to do with it is all up to you. The rational analysis of human sexuality has been mystified by the scientific deception, I would say, perpetuated by Alfred Kinsey in 1948. Kinsey, who had been a homosexual pederast, has until quite recently gone unchallenged by the scientific community. Remember in 1948, John Rockefeller gave Alfred Kinsey $100,000 US to do a study on homosexuality. John Rockefeller, who wasn't married, I'm not saying anymore, gave $100,000 to Alfred Kinsey. And that's where you came up with that idea of Y chromosomes and men having more chromosomes, and that's where that idea came up with. The human sex, after Kinsey did this, his assistant performed on homosexual, on prison inmates and others, including children and infants who were sexually abused, to prove that human sexuality followed a 7-point scale from heterosexuality to homosexuality, with bisexuality in the middle. Kinsey concluded that bisexuality was the natural way of life. And I'm saying to you, that was accepted for 4 decades. Kinsey wormed his way into the moral fabric of Western societies. It became the foundation of the conventional wisdom that homosexuality is normal. When Kinsey testified before the California legislators that sodomy would be discriminated because 10% of all Americans were homosexual, it brought the clandestine behavior into mainstream thought and acceptance. It was part of the whole idea behind the whole Stonewall riot in New York many years later, because the gays had come to a place of comfort believing that what they were into was natural based on birth. Claimed by the gay rights movement that homosexuality is a genetic trait and homosexuals are born with and cannot change became the focus of the campaign, the scientific peg in this whole sorry crusade. The homosexual lobby argument of a homosexual gene as having been responsible for homosexual behavior, and hence it is natural and not deviant, has never been proven. And I want to repeat this. The homosexual lobby's argument of a homosexual gene as having been responsible for homosexual behavior, and hence it is natural and not deviant, has never been proven. I know some of you think it has been, but you have come to accept it. You have seen all these binary movement, the LGBTQ argument, you have seen all these forums. So you come to the point to believe, well, maybe it is so. Researchers from the Department of Genetics at Stanford Medical School and the Department of Clinical Neurological Science at the University of Western Ontario in a 1999 study published in the Journal of Science found that there was no evidence to support the presence of a gene of large effect influencing sexual orientation. And as I go on, I come up to some more modern studies as I go to show you this idea of this gene therapy is more activism than real science. The scientists question whether a gene inherited from mothers influences men's sexual orientation. While genetics determine the sex of an embryo, yes, the genes determine that, a boy and a girl, but boys and girls are made through the process of socialization. When the doctor says it's a boy, and you begin to paint his room in blue and purple and give him toys of trucks, and what you are really doing, you are socializing a baby with a male genital to become a boy. That's what you're doing. And when you put a girl in pink and have her in this pink room and play she get colors and give her dolls and teacups and saucers, what you are doing, you are trying to socialize that infant, that genital with a vagina to become a girl. That's what you're doing. John Money, a Johns Hopkins University psychologist, stated, of course, it's sexual orientation. Of course, it means sexual orientation is in the brain. He said that the real question is, when did it get there? Was it paternal, neonatal, during childhood, puberty? That we do not know. The fact is, scientists still can't explain what determines a person's sexual orientation. And the idea of learned behavior, is still the most potent and logical argument for human behavior. I learn everything. There's nothing that I do that I did not learn. To speak, the accent, the way I walk, the English language, to eat using my mouth, to use my feet, all that. All those things are learned behavior. Even to be a boy, I learned that also. And while many studies have suggested that it is biological and not choice, researchers in 1991 discovered that identical twins of gay men were much more likely to also be gay than were fraternal twins. The conflicting results in these researches have come about through the tenacity of the homosexual lobby to shape and change public opinion. In so doing, homosexuals in the science world continue to present findings to promote their cause that goes against nature. Homosexual activist and researcher Dr. Dean Hamer, and you all may know him well because he's the one that they quote most of all in the whole idea that there's a gene that is creating this idea of homosexuality. Homosexual activist and researcher Dr. Dean Hamer of the National Cancer Institute in America in 1993 study published in Science picked up from Kingsley by suggesting a link between genes and homosexuality. The modern homosexual activists and proselytes have used Hamer's research to promote their campaign for same-sex marriage and hate crime legislation. This is a real and present danger, for the theories of Hamer and Kingsley claim that all types of genital activity, regardless of the sex or age of the partner, and including violent and perverted actions, was normal. And this formed the basis for the new pseudoscience of sexology and sex education courses taught in most American and European elementary and secondary school, colleges, and universities. That's the basis of it. We are coming wrong. We are moving from just lesbian and homos to all different sort of sexual exchange. In fact, I was at a radio station and I offered to do for that radio station a free program on counseling where people were called for counseling. and where I will refer them if it is very, very too open for radio, free of charge for the individuals. We'll have those counselors, and that radio station, we ask them, have to pay for that program. And not long after, that said radio station took on a program on sex, where a guy said he's a sex guru, and he is not paying for the program. And the people are open to call in and speak about having different partners and all sorts of sexual activity. They prefer to go with that. And that's the society that we live in. And that's why the whole issue of that homosexual lobby is raging across the world. I cringe as tomorrow unfurls, filled with emptiness inside, born of the feelings and knowledge that I may just be a voice blowing in the wind. There would be many long nights, I will say to you, many long nights with icy gales that will tear the flesh of our souls and consciences before the dawn breaks on this sordid issue. This is where we are. You will hardly find popular preachers going on radio and speak in depth against LGBTQ plus behavior and lifestyle. You hardly find that. That voice is a dying voice. That voice is more for wayside preachers and laymen preachers. That's where we are. That's why I say there will be many long nights with icy gales that will tear the flesh out of our souls and consciences before the dawn breaks on this sordid issue. Mark my words. The Bailey-Pillard twin study, researchers found that 56 identical twins, 52% were both gay as against 22 fraternal twins. The numbers alone say a lot. So out of these 56 identical twins, if one turned out to be gay, there were 52% chance of the other one being gay. That's what the research is saying here. Even though it is only half, I'm saying it's a huge percentage. Their conclusion is this. The conclusion is this can mean that there had to be something in the genes that factored into these siblings being gay, since identical twins share the exact same genotype. Now, it is plain for the science to see it, but they didn't see it. And I'm saying this now, but can this also mean that both twins were subjected to the same method of socialization? Hence, they are twins. Hence, they are twins where only one of the pair becomes a homosexual. If we should follow the genes theory as a reason in this study, that 52% of the study, both were homosexual. Then what about the other 48%, where one or none? Or in the case where one only was a homosexual? What about the genes that cause that one only to be a homosexual? Since genetic factor being dominant in determining the homosexuality of an individual, isn't it a proven factor that we certainly can't rule out environmental factors, since all other things that we learn and know is done through the environment? Is it possible that homosexuality will be more a choice than it is being inherited, than that is inherited genes theory that you are stuck with? In the article Homosexuality, Born or Bred, Doug Barnett, who was a practicing heterosexual, vaguely attracted to men, had no idea about his sexuality until his twin brother came up to him and revealed that Levi was gay. That was his twin brother. It wasn't until then Barnett realized that if my identical brother is gay, maybe the same thing that interests him would work for me too. He then tried sex with other men to find out, and he enjoyed it more. And I want to repeat, he enjoyed it more, M-O-R-E, than women. Can it be possible that had Barnett never found out that his identical brother with with the exact same DNA did not tell him of his sexual preference, Barnett would have continued living his heterosexual life, having sex with women and enjoying it, maybe slightly less than having sex with men. But that wouldn't have mattered because Barnett would not have known what about sex with men. So Barnett, moved from heterosexuality to homosexuality because his twin brother was said to him that he was homosexual and he was enjoying having sex with men. So Barnett decided to try it, and he found that he enjoyed it more, and because of that, he stopped with men. Could I really be serious and say this is genes? Another thing, if identical twins that share the same DNA, and if one is gay, shouldn't it be 100% chance that the other one is gay as well? Why only 52%? This is true as far as the environment factors are concerned. Maybe people become gay because they grow thinking about the males in their lives that give them a good time. They don't have any females that are giving them happiness and therefore just don't end up liking them. Just surmising. But these theories are very unreliable, with no concrete evidence to even consider it as the bigger reason. I'm trying to cover all the angles here. I want you to understand what I'm doing here. I'm trying to, when I'm through with this program, you have all the angles, all the arguments for homosexuality. I'm trying to cover them all in this 45 minutes. I'm trying to cover all the angles to bring you an understanding of homosexuality, including this statement by Whitaker. We can also ask a very important question, Whitaker said, to ourselves. Why is it that even in societies where homosexuality is forbidden or strictly frowned upon, people still openly announce their homosexuality? That's what Whitaker is saying. If people are going through all this malaise and pain and are maligned and suffer, then why do they still claim that they are homosexual? Could it be because that's who they are? The article, Everything You Need to Know About Being Gay in Muslim Countries by Browne validates the theory of genetics being the dominant factor in determining homosexuality. In his mind, he validated that. Mr. Whitaker discussed the fact that throughout the 19th and 20th century, men that expressed being gay were persecuted. These people's families, religion, and culture completely went against their ideologies. So even in these times of extreme cruelty and hate towards the homosexuals, if they still openly express their sexual identity and stand up for who they are, it's probably true that this is the way they were born. It can also be true that no environmental factor influences their sexual identity, and their sexuality is the way it is due to factors. And all those who have questions on the topic, I'm going to give you all a chance to ask any question you want. We'll stop around. I will stop around 10 to 10, and you will get 10 minutes to ask all your hard questions. Let not your heart be troubled. Oh, yes. So even if these extreme, as you said that, again, just a theory, but this definitely seems like a more reliable one. That's what Whitaker is saying. But to me, this theory is the only one, because society is frowned upon all kinds of deviant behavior. Deviants are made every hour, and deviants are practiced everywhere. Society frown on thieves and prostitutes and murderers and adulterers and liars, but these things are still germane in the society. People are coming. Today I saw on the news day that we crossed 500 persons killed. Yet there'll be more killing tomorrow. Although we frowned upon it, it will still happen. Another theory from a religious perspective can be that since God has made everything from the earth to the heaven and the plants and the animals, can't it be possible that he also create another sexuality? The article, God Made You This Way, Pope is to have told gay man by Jason Horowitz, says the direct quotation of the Pope to a gay man. And I quote him what the Pope said to the gay man. You have to be happy with who you are. God made you this way and loves you this way. And the Pope loves you this way, stated Horowitz. This is coming from the Pope, Horowitz said. This is coming from the Pope himself. So for those who claim homosexuality goes against religion and try to use religion as a cover blanket to support their hatred against gay people, might have to come with better reason to keep on hating. Because the Pope said this is okay. So how you Christian, you Methodist, you Seventh-day, you Jehovah's Witness, you Pentecostal, you Baptist, how could you come and say that something is wrong when the Pope has said that it's okay and God made them so? But I have news for Horowitz. The Pope is not the voice of God, never was, and never will be. I have that news for Horowitz. In fact, I want to say to you that there are birth defects aplenty. There are folks who are born without their brain, without fingers, without their heart, without their liver, without spleen. There are folks who are bridged in woman's womb. There are folks who are born without their eyes, without hearing. There are folks who are born and 3 days after they die because it was not possible for them to live. There are things that we call birth defects. So why God made Adam when he knelt on the ground and he shaped that hulk and he breathed into his nostril the breath of life, and that man came to be a mighty man. God continued to create true women, but we have sinned and we have brought things in our environment. We have eaten and we have drunk and stuff that we should not have. We have gone to places and have done things in the world atmosphere, and we are reaping the whirlwind. So birth defects is not necessarily God defect. We have done. We have caused storms and hurricanes and typhoons. We have done, and floods and splash river, and we have done that because of we have carried on. In the latest study, scientists found no evidence of linking sexual orientation in the genetic position where it had been emphasized before. One writer said that this new study revealed that Hamer's activism got in the way of his ability to remain unbiased about his research. What reputable science is telling us, you can hear me, what reputable science is telling us is that there is absolutely no scientific proof of a gay gene. Unfortunately, the Journal of Science and all other reputable science journals and magazines did not give the story the same headlines as the National Cancer Institute geneticist Dean Hamer got in 1993 by suggesting that one such gene resides in a region of the X chromosome, one of the microscopic structures that carry genes. They did not put up this the same way. So a lot of people still feel that this is good science. Hamer suggests that men inherit that chromosome from their mothers, but never identify the gene itself. His research suggests its location by finding that 33 pairs of gay brothers shared certain genetic markers. The heterosexual brothers didn't. However, in the Journal of Science, Canadian scientists said they attempted to duplicate Hamer's work and found no link. Neurologist George Rice of the University of Western Ontario studied gay brothers from 48 families and said they were no more likely to share X-linked genetic patterns than would be determined by chance. Genetics researchers from Yale, Columbia, and Louisiana State University noted that much of the Hamer report focuses on social and political implications of genetic homosexuality, rather than discussing scientific evidence. They also indicated that the result was not consistent with any genetic replica and should be interpreted guardedly.
Hence, the strongest argument of the homosexual lobby to deem homosexuality as natural is inconclusive in science and contrary to nature and natural laws. And I'm pointing out what they say now. I'm quote one Bible text from Leviticus, from Paul and Romans, from current, not one text. I am pouring the thing before you, giving you an understanding of homosexuality. The real issue behind this dark and clandestine agenda is the family, as ordained and established by God. Even without the Christian jargon, one can follow that within the development of Western societies, societal recognition and protection of the traditional family, consisting of father, mother, and children. Western culture was developed on these principles of morality, where motherhood out of wedlock was frowned upon for practical as well as ethical reasons. It was also held by the idea that sex is a reserve for marriage. And the reason why government hold the idea that sex is a reserve for marriage, because government wanted to make sure that those children that you make, they don't have to take care of it. So the government formed that system of descent. That kinship system is recognized by the government, so that when the father dies or a mother dies, it will have a safe way for the distribution of property. To accept gay marriage or homosexual union is to destroy the very foundation of morality in which a society was built. The flirting of the idea of gay marriages and homosexual unions was only made possible by the steady fall in other moral aspects in regards to sex. It is a fall. It is a fall. According to Dennis Altman, society in general is like the gay community is forsaking the traditional canons of sexual and familial morality. Same-sex has attained a certain status and acceptability. He suggests that many young boys frequently the victims of divorce, deprived of love and example of a father. Homosexuality may seem preferable to the old-fashioned kind. And I want to use the next 5 minutes before I open the lines to give you a historical dimension. And if it's taken more than 5 minutes, I will stop. I hope I'll say the first thing in front so that you will understand. Homosexual activists often mention that the medical profession, specifically psychiatrists and psychologists, believe that homosexuality is a normal human sexual response. In support of this assertion, they talk about how the American Psychological Association officially removed homosexuality from its list of mental disorders. In 1973, and the American Psychiatric Association also classified homosexuality as normal. Now, there's a difference between psychiatry and psychology. Psychiatry is a real science. They say what they do not mention, of course, is that these organizations did not base their changes of opinion on scholarly studies or new scientific evidence. The acceptance of homosexuality, I want you to hear, I'm reading now. The acceptance of homosexuality was purely political, the result of a relentless campaign of deception, intimidation, and outright violence and unethical collusion between the elitists of the APA and the APA communities and activist homosexual group. And what happened? In 1968, representative of homosexual rights group approached leading psychiatrists and psychologists and began to lay the groundwork for the reclassification of their lifestyle as normal and healthy. Before that time, psychiatrists saw it as mental illness, and the psychologists followed suit also. These activists recognized that such a move was necessary. They said their program was a healthy manifestation. If they were to win people acceptance, after all, society would not look very kindly upon civil rights lobbying done by groups. So, in 3 years during which the American Psychological Association homosexual task force was deliberating, It collaborated with numerous homosexual activist groups, including the Gay Activist Alliance, the Machine Society, and the Daughters of Abilities, while systematically ignoring organizations with views that disagree with the activists. I want you to tell you that. They went about trying to analyze these people with only views from those who held that what these people were saying was right. At about the same time, Abraham Gardner, former professor of psychiatry at Columbia University, revealed a powerful lobby of gay organizations has brought pressure on the American Psychiatric Association to remove homosexuality from the category of aberrancy. This was only one facet of the tidal wave of egalitarian and divisiveness that is sweeping the world right now. Alfred Kinsey's colleague, Paul Gebhardt, revealed that anyone who believed that homosexuality was a disorder was systematically excluded from being a member of the APA, the American Psychiatric Association, the American Psychologist Association. Homosexuality task force or for even being able to present his or her views or evidence to them. In other words, the task force only permit those people who shared their viewpoint to voice an opinion, so their conclusion were preordained. But I want to say something to you before I run out of time. Even though they did that, they found nothing to support the idea that these men were not mentally ill. But let me go on. I don't reach to that, you will have that already. But the homosexuals did not focus on these organizations alone. They intimidated psychiatrists and psychologists all over the world, especially in America. While the homosexual task force were preparing their report, anyone who dared to present documentation that homosexuality was a psychological disorder anywhere in the country was shouted down and even physically attacked at public forums, at local and national meetings of mental health professionals. For example, at the 1971 American Psychiatric Association National Convention, hordes of homosexuals screamed at anti-gay speakers. Activist Frank Kamani seized the microphone in the middle of one doctor's talk and shouted, "Psychiatry is the enemy incarnate. Psychiatry has waged a relentless war of extermination against us. You may take this as a declaration of war against you." On the January 4th, Khamenei was shouting this out to all those who sat there. Gangs of homosexuals roamed the exhibit hall and destroyed any literature they deemed not sufficiently gay-friendly. One psychiatrist at that meeting wrote, "Using forged credentials, gay activists gained access to the exhibit area and coming across a display marking aversive conditioning techniques for the treatment of homosexuals and demanded its removal. Threats were made against the exhibitor, who was told that unless his booth was dismantled, it will be torn down. After frantic behind-the-scenes consultation and in an effort to avoid violence, the convention leadership, hear me, the convention leadership agreed to have the booth removed. From this moment onwards, the American Psychiatric Association was dominated by homosexual threats, violence, and intimidation. This systematic campaign of violence propagated and intimidation began to pay off in 1972. The National Institute of Mental Health, the Homosexual Task Force final report parroted Alfred Kingsley's discredited findings that exclusive homosexuality and exclusive homosexuality were sexual extremes and that most people were basically bisexual. We'll open the lines now, and if there is no call, I will just continue, but you may have your views that you see someone had right and ask me. So, Alex, if you're still there.
Sure. Let's open the phone lines right now. It's Victoria's Lifestyle with Pastor Terrance Browne, and you can call in live 622-4911. So phone lines are open. We got about 8 minutes. So if you would like to get your call in, now would be a great time. Pastor, back to you.
Yeah. The NIMH report in turn exerted a great deal of influence on both APAs. In order to make its final report appear scientific, the American Psychiatric Association Homosexual Task Force sent a letter to all APA member psychiatrists. This letter did not ask whether or not homosexuals should or should not be declared normal. It directed all members to vote that homosexuality was equivalent to normal sexuality. The letter did not, of course, reveal the fact that it was written and funded by the National Gay Task Force. One of the letter's signers, in fact, later confessed that he knew that such knowledge would have been the kiss of death for.
We have a call coming in here, Pastor.
Sure.
Let's take this one. Good morning. Welcome.
Hi, good morning to the pastor and to all in the studio.
Good morning.
Thank you very much. Morning.
Yes, I am reminded of Judas Iscariot, whose wrong, deliberate choice to betray Jesus Christ caused Satan to enter him. So I believe that real evil spirits are real and they are attracted to wrong, evil practices. So the sexual weaknesses of mankind need to be overcome through Jesus Christ, or else those demons led on by the devil will eventually lead to the destruction of humanity. So let us all say no to homosexual activities, lesbianism, and prostitution. So may we be strong to correct others in love, but they have to turn away from their sins. Okay?
Thank you, my sister.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. And I agree with what you're saying, because it's once one devil comes, as Jesus told the man, he brings more with him. So once you are on a devilish path, it can just keep on going, getting devilish. Despite the atrocities, amount of manipulation behind the vote, the psychiatrists declared homosexual normal by only a very slim margin. Subsequently, the APA eliminated homosexuality as a mental disorder from the 1970 edition, from the diagnosis of 1973. So the whole idea that it is normal behavior, it is not based on science, friend. It is not even based on activism, but it is based on intimidation and threats. It is based on people of such ilk winding themselves into higher organization. And this is what we are seeing played out. What we are seeing played out is not something that gene theory or anything like that, but this is more choice based on socialization. And socialization is powerful, friends. You may not understand how powerful it is to grow up in a place. In fact, I usually ask this question: if you alone was the only person in this world, nothing that you are doing now, you would have done. Nothing. If you were the only human being in the world, from the time you were born, you never saw another human being, everything that you are doing now, you would have done differently. Some you would not have done at all. You would not be able to speak with no accent. You would have crawled, you would have walked upright, you would have crawled as the animals that you were around. You would have barked and you would have grown and you would have defecated while you are walking. You would not have appreciated beauty, you would have been as your environment. And to think that we agree with all of that, yet we are saying, as far as the homosexual is concerned, we are born that way. It is hard to understand if you forego logic and the scientific knowledge that you have. If you forego, you recognize hard. In fact, if you go back to God's creation, I was trying to leave it out of the whole thing to make sure those who don't believe in Bible and God can see the argument without it, because the Bible argument is strong. But even the argument without the Bible is even stronger. So that's why I try to stay with the argument that people are embracing out there. Because the whole idea, the LGBTQ, in America, if you say something against the LGBTQ plus people, and you are a sportsman, you are a politician, you can find yourself out of a job. But I can say the same thing that you say against the LGBTQ. If you say that against a human being, a man, especially a man, there's no consequence. I can rant for the next 3 minutes on this program that men are nasty, bad, they should all die, and I'll be here again next week Sunday to do my program. But if I choose the next 2 minutes to say all those same things about a homosexual or homosexuality or women, there'll be challenges on every side. There would be. And that is because the lobby has become so strong that nothing that they do is considered wrong. But God has prepared men and women. When God created man and he created woman and he created the organs, the genitals, they were created for sex. They were created for procreation also. And that's why even before the sexual act begins, you find there are systems in place to prepare both genitals for that act. The reason why God has made that act enjoyable, because God wanted to keep the human race being procreated. Two things that God has made enjoyable beyond measure is food and sex, to make sure that man will live and procreate. God made man. And then the Bible said put him to sleep, and he created woman and brought the woman to the man. God was saying something to us. And then he said to them, be fruitful and multiply. So immediately God saying, the first command I'm going to give you to make you know I placed you here to be fruitful and to multiply. The issue of homosexuality, take that command out of the equation and makes it impossible. It is diabolic. It is diabolic. I want to read the last thing from the task force. It is as if the task force said, here is a phenomenon about which we know nothing about, which there is a great deal of anxiety and concern. Therefore, let us suggest a major revision in public policy for dealing with this phenomenon. I can't escape the belief that this is an utterly unreasonable conclusion to draw from the sea of ignorance and misinformation in which we find ourselves. And I want to say to folks, as I close off though, I'm out of time, I want to say to folks that who love all kind of conspiracy and conspiracy theories and all kind of craziness. Friend, proper data by proper research, by proper researchers can help. Stop listening to fringe view. Because while some of you are listening to me, agreeing with me, because I'm going down mainstream data, you love it. But you know, a lot of you hold on to all sorts of side road data, all sorts of conspiracy theories, and you are spreading lies and confusing the whole world as we know it. Stick with mainstream data that has been properly peer reviewed. Thank you very much. Until next week, Alex, good morning and blessings.
Thank you once again, Pastor. Appreciate that. We'll chat and have yourself a wonderful day. That was the program Victorious Lifestyle with Pastor Terrance Browne every Sunday here on Talk City 91.1 FM.